I'm going to show you how we can use NMEA data inside an Instinct flow. In order to get NMEA data inside an Instinct flow, the only thing you need to do is you have to call the NMEA file reader. You will find the file reader in the data provider section that provides different nodes for reading sensor data. So if you go to data provider section, you will see that there is an NMEA file option. If you click on that, the proper node saying NMEA file pops up. If you double click on that, you will be asked which file you want to read. If you click on choose, you can choose any NMEA file of choice. In that case, I'm selecting one that has been recorded by a commercial GNSS receiver on the rooftop of our building. I'm happy with that. I click OK. I close the window. The node has changed to green. So in order to show what we have recorded here, we can easily create a simple plot. For creating a plot, I'm going to refer to another video where we explain you how we plot things. So I'm going very briefly over this. In the plot node, we have many connections. So we have too many connections. Initially, we remove all connections except the ones we need. The first connection, so we see the symbols match now. So I take the output from the NMEA file reader to the plot. I have connected it, and now I'm going to add a plot that makes sense for me. So I want to create two plots. The first plot should be a horizontal plot. So I want to have longitude on the horizontal axis and latitude on the vertical axis. This means I'm going to change the x data from time to longitude, and latitude should be on the vertical axis. So I'm dragging it here on the vertical axis, and then I'm done with plot number 1. And I'm going to add another plot that shows altitude over time. So if you create a new plot, time is automatically the x data, so I'm happy with that. And then I'm dragging altitude to the y-axis. So with that, I'm done. I'm going to initialize the flow. Everything is green, ready to run. I'm going to run the flow. We see data popping up. So if we have a look into our plot, what we see is we have now a plot of latitude against longitude on the upper in the first plot window, and altitude over time in the second window. So that just shows you how easy it is to get NMEA data in your flow. Maybe there is another feature that could be very useful for you, and which I would like also to show you. Maybe it's useful for some short application or some simple task you have to do, namely the conversion from latitude, longitude, and altitude into ECEF coordinates. That can be handled rather easily. For example, if we just have a data logger, namely the POSVAL logger, which logs position, velocity, and attitude. If we insert such a node, which is a sync, we can connect also our NMEA file to that logger. I'm going to have to give a file name for that. I'm going to call my file video.csv. The ending is CSV. I'm happy with that. I say OK. Now it has a file name. I'm going to reinitialize the whole flow and just run it. Very easy, because we have only a very short data set. Just to double check, the plots are popping up again in the right thing. So assuming now that the data has also been fed to the CSV file, let's have a look what we find there. So that's the content of the CSV file Instinct has created for us. Like any CSV file that is created from Instinct, it starts with a header telling us what we find in each column. In the first column we have time in a relative sense in seconds, and then we come with absolute time in the format of GPS time in GPS cycles, weeks, and time of week. And already then we find position in X, Y, and Z, which is actually the one maybe you feel like you want to have when you want to convert very easily and very quickly an NMEA file to ECEF. So the only thing you need to do is you need an NMEA file reader, and as an output you provide a POSVAL logger, and you will see that, like in our case, we have X coordinates, Y coordinates, and Z coordinate of every position tag inside the NMEA file. Of course, we will find also latitude, longitude, and altitude. And as we see, the header tells us then we would even have north-south changes Currently, velocity from NMEA is not supported by Instinct. Maybe that's a feature for the future. And of course, we don't have orientation from an NMEA file, so the quaternions representing orientations as well as roll, pitch, and yaw angles are not filled into the proper columns of the CSV files. So in that case, we can see we have converted position into ECEF coming from lat long alt, and that is maybe very useful in case you want to have a quick and dirty look or a quick and dirty look of your data in another frame. So with that, I hope it was useful for you to show you how easy it is to use NMEA data. Of course, you can build more complicated flows, fusion flows, or other flows where NMEA data acts as an input source. Once you have the data inside your flow, you just connect it to the proper nodes, and the processing should be more or less like any other data. So that being said, we're looking forward to seeing you use the NMEA feature. If you have any questions or recommendations, please feel free to drop us a message. Maybe you can do that also on our mailing list, where we can start a discussion. If you have a particular feature request about that or notice that there might be a bug, please let us also know. Thank you very much for using Instinct.